Welcome to The Explainer. You know, most companies figure out pricing from the inside out. They calculate their costs, add the profit they want, and then just hope you'll pay for it. Well, today, we're looking at two strategies that completely flip that script. They start with what you're willing to pay and force the business to work backward from there. So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at why that old school way of pricing is just, well, it's broken. Then we'll introduce two powerful fixes that work together like a charm. We'll even run the numbers on an example to see it in action, and we'll wrap it all up with the key lessons that'll really change how you think about making a profit. All right, first up, let's dig into the way most businesses have been pricing things for decades. On the surface, it seems totally logical, but it's got some really serious kind of profit-killing blind spots. Yeah, the traditional logic feels super simple, right? You add up your costs for all the materials, the labor, the whole shebang, you tack on the profit you want, and boom, there's your price. But see, it's a totally inside-out approach. It puts your company at the center of the universe, not your customer. So if it's really that simple, what's the big deal? What's the problem? Well, this whole cost-plus method, it's built on a really shaky foundation. It has two, let's call them fatal flaws, that in today's market can be a recipe for disaster. And here are those two big flaws, right next to each other. First, it's just pure market ignorance. It basically assumes customers are just going to pay your price, no matter what your competitors are doing or what they think it's worth. That's just corporate arrogance. And second, it is incredibly short-sighted. It only looks at the costs to make the thing, completely ignoring everything that happens before and after it comes off the assembly line. Okay, so how do we fix that first flaw, the whole ignoring the market thing? We do it with our first concept, target costing. This is where we stop talking to ourselves inside the factory, and we actually start listening to what the market is telling us. And this is a complete 180-degree reversal of that old logic. It is an outside-in approach. You don't start with your costs, you start with your customer. So here's how it works. You go out and you find the price the market will actually pay for your product. Then you subtract the profit you need to make. Whatever's left over, that becomes your target cost. And all of a sudden, cost isn't your starting point. It's a non-negotiable goal that your entire team has to figure out how to hit. This simple three-step process, it forces an incredible amount of discipline. It completely shifts the focus from, gee, I hope we can sell it for this much, to we absolutely must build it for this cost. It's the difference between just hoping for a profit and actually engineering one from the start. Let's make this super real for a second. Let's say the market will pay $12 for some new gadget you're making, and let's say your company needs a $4 profit on it. Well, the math is crystal clear. The absolute maximum you can spend to produce it is $8. That is your target. Period. End of story. And this approach, it changes everything. The design phase is no longer just about making something that looks cool. It becomes the most critical, cost-defining stage of the whole process. Your marketing people, your designers, your finance folks, they have to work together from day one, figuring out how to engineer costs out before production even begins. And they have to do it all while protecting the features customers actually care about. Okay, so target costing solves that market problem. But what about that second flaw we talked about? All those hidden costs from before and after production. Well, that's where our second big idea, lifecycle costing, comes into play. Think of this as looking at the entire movie of a product's life, not just that one short scene of it being built. It means you're tracking every single penny, from the first sketch on a napkin all the way to what it's going to cost to get rid of it years and years down the road. So it forces you to account for costs at every single stage. You've got those big upfront design and R&D costs. Then you have the obvious ones, the manufacturing costs. And then, finally, you have the often forgotten costs that happen after the sale, like warranties, customer support, and even decommissioning or recycling fees. Now, here is a really crucial distinction to make. A committed cost gets locked in the second a decision is made, like when you choose to use a specific expensive material. An incurred cost is when you actually use the resource. When the bill for that material actually shows up. And believe me, the timing difference between those two is everything. And this chart right here, this is the big aha moment. Just look at that huge bar on the left. By the time you're done with the design phase, you have already locked in around 80% of your product's total lifetime cost. But look at the tiny little bar next to it.
you've only actually spent a tiny fraction of the money. Your early design choices basically seal your financial fate. This is your point of maximum leverage, your greatest power to control costs.
Okay, enough theory. Let's put this into practice. This is where we're going to see how these two big ideas actually work together to help make a smart and, profitable decision. So, here's our challenge. We've got a new product. We think we can sell about 10,000 of them. The market is telling us the price has got to be $21, and the boss says we need a 40% markup. So, given all these estimated costs you see here, the big question is, should we even make this thing? All right, step 1, target costing. We take that $21 market price, we factor in the profit we have to make, and it tells us our target cost is 15 bucks. That is our line in the sand, our absolute unmissable target. Okay, now step 2, lifecycle costing. We add up all of our estimated costs, the design, the manufacturing, all of it, and we divide by the number of units. And our actual projected cost per unit, turns out, it's $17. And right there, we've got a problem, a big one. Our actual projected cost is 17 bucks. Our target is 15. As it stands right now, this product is a guaranteed money loser. An old-school approach might have missed this entirely, but our framework makes it painfully clear. This project is a no-go. But wait a second, remember that leverage we have in the design phase? What if we strategically spend more money upfront on design to try and engineer those manufacturing costs down? Let's run the numbers on that and see what happens. So we run the calculation. To make our $15 total target work after spending more on design, our manufacturing cost per unit has to drop all the way to $6.50. And just like that, the engineering team has a crystal clear goal. Can that extra design investment get us from a $10 manufacturing cost down to $6.50? That is an actionable, data-driven question. Okay, so let's boil this whole thing down. After all that, what are the really crucial takeaways you need to remember from this? Here's what it all comes down to. 1. That cost-plus pricing model is just dangerously outdated. 2. You have to let the market dictate your costs with target costing. 3. You need to use lifecycle costing to see the entire cost picture, not just a piece of it. And maybe most importantly, you have to remember that your biggest power to save money, your biggest opportunity, is always in the design phase. That is where profitability is won or lost.
So I guess the question to leave you with is this. Are you just pricing for today, or are you actually planning for tomorrow? Are you simply reacting to costs as they pop up, or are you designing for profit right from the very first sketch? Because that's the difference between hoping for a profit and engineering one.